And so we want to make sure we get this last gentleman up here to speak, and I'll turn it back over to Jerry. What's your name again, sir?
Clark Strickland.
Clark Strickland. And you look like a Navy person.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
We won't hold that against him.
I'd like to thank the staff for this great opportunity. I'm really honored to be here with men of such talent and such an American spirit. Somewhere along the line, I've seen the paper this week, the American spirit has been challenged and been broken. When we look back at veterans, we have to think about the spirit of 76. 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence so we could be here today as free men and free women. We're free to speak, but there's two things we should always think about. Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. He did it during a battle where men were dying for this great country. When I hear the Star Spangled Banner, sometimes I get emotion. It means so much to be American. It means so much to be a veteran. Also, these spirits of 76, these men were all highly educated. They were all wealthy. Some of them were farmers. 24 of them were lawyers. When they challenged King George, most 20 or something of them gave their lives for this great country. We are honored to be here today in this manner. I'm honored to be with you folks here today. My name was presented down here on the USS Hornet last year, and they called me up and said they wanted to come up and investigate me. And they set a time and a place to come up. When they came in, I took them back to my little room and opened up my folder. And the guy said, well, we surely got a veteran today because they've had some problems down there. I spoke on the veteran, and then the moderator was talking to me, and he says, you know, this ship had been in a lot of places, done a lot of things. And I looked at him. I was there on 2 occasions when this ship was in action. We have a lot of great stories to tell, untold stories. I'm going to make it short and tell you a couple of nice untold stories. When I was a young boy, I lived in a neighborhood. There were 3 Civil War veterans. I played checkers with them and talked to them. American history. I shook hands with them. Some of you shook hands with me today. Don't forget what you did. What if one of them said I shook hands with Abraham Lincoln? I keep it in my head that they may have. Well, I spent 2 years in the South Pacific on a combat transport. It was USS Fuller. Did any of you ever hear about the USS Fuller? You can check it out on the internet. When we came into Guadalcanal to unload troops and supplies, who was our guards? It was the PT Boat 109 and several destroyer escorts. One day we was in there unloading troops and supplies, and they got underwater signals that Japanese submarines were trying to come into the harbor. So they had to go out and they searched. The PT boats and the destroyer escort searched. In about 3 or 4 hours, they found the submarines. They dropped their charges and sunk them. When they came back into the fleet, got in the middle of the fleet, they went to blowing their horns, their whistles, and began to ring their bells, and they began to cheer us. They probably saved my life that day, and one of them was John F. Kennedy. I used to put supplies and stuff in his boat. One time they asked for some fruit. We was told not to put any fruit on the boats. But we stuck one in between. When he saw it, he went to thanking us, and I just said, untold stories. I read in a paper some time ago, we talk about Air Force here, that somebody said the planes on Guadalcanal couldn't fly. They was always in the jungles. He was right, they were in the jungles. Every time they'd land, the crew and the Seabees would put them in the jungle and cover them up with foliage so they wouldn't be shot at, wouldn't be tore up with the bombs when they came over in the afternoons, all day long. He didn't even know the name of the field. It's called Henderson Field. You know, some people, they say things and they don't know what they're talking about. You heard stories here today, but you won't hear nowhere else. I think this is one of the greatest countries in the world. I spent 2 years in the South Pacific. The U.S. Fuller was a combat transport. We landed troops throughout 9 islands. Sometimes I was a gunner's mate. Sometimes I was on a VP boat landing troops. Sometimes if we had a big storm, you couldn't believe all that stuff would in the boat deck would get tore up, and it took 2 men and the boys just time to pick one piece up. But you never know what your duty was if you was a crew member on the boat. I think it was one of the greatest adventures of my life. It wasn't a good adventure, but look what it's done for us today. Look where we sit here. There's no country in the world can do what we're doing here today. And you think about that. Freedom. Since World War I, we have given 1 million servicemen have given their life for this great country. That's since World War I. 1 million. Today, 26 former servicemen will commit suicide. This month, you will lose 40,000. In 5 years, there'll be less than 100,000 of us would come to one of these meetings. We're walking in the evening shadows, but we walk in there looking at the sunlight. And we walk in there with love and joy. Before I quit here this morning, I want to ask you to do one thing. I want to thank the crew here, and I'd like for everybody to bow their head and give praise and thanks for all those men who have given their life. For one moment of silence, please. Amen. I want to say, may God bless America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And you what made it brave. Have a good day, and thank you very much.
Thank you.